Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here bright and early. Feels like we just left here literally 12 hours ago, but it's good to be here this morning. Thank you, everybody who's here. Can we go ahead and get started with call to order? District 1.
Good morning. My name is Patrice Horseman, Supervisor, District 1.
Thank you. District 2, Jeronimo Vasquez, Supervisor, District 2, and current chair. Thank you for being here. District 3.
Good morning, everybody. Adam Hess, District 3.
District 4.
Judy Begay, District 5, number 4.
Changing territories.
Good morning, I'm
District
Lisa
5.
Fowler, District 5, Supervisor.
Thank you. All right, well, we get to continue our discussion regarding the Coconino County fiscal year 2025 budget, including highway user revenue fund 10-year plan and increments needed, jail district 10-year plan and increments needed, reviewing capacity of one-time increments, recurring increments, and expenditure limitation, and the presentation of the fiscal 2025 recommended budget. And with that, I'll hand it over to our county manager, Steve Peru.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Good morning. It does seem like we just left this room, but wanted to kick off this morning. First of all, before we go over the schedule, I want to just sync up with you on the schedule for today because we've had to make some changes. I just want to acknowledge the work of the budget team and Andy in presenting this year's budget. This is the last day of our budget process. From this point forward, the tentative budget will be created and developed for adoption the first meeting in June, and then the final budget is going to be adopted the 25th of June. And so, as was very evident, Andy took over the budget process. I asked him to do this, and it gave Andy the opportunity to do what he does best. And I will say that when Andy was the budget manager many years ago, before I plucked him out of budget and took him to Public Works, he expertly led our budget process. And at that time, he worked with Siri. And so the two of them together, and I think it was evident while you could watch them this last few meetings, they sync well together. And that's what really counts. And then I also want to credit Megan for pitching in yesterday. Siri took ill, and Megan came down and picked up where Siri left off. And we really want to appreciate Megan for doing all that too. As you know, the budget process begins months ahead. We also want to credit the departments and our elected officials for their cooperation every step of the way. It is multi-month. It takes a better part of a year to create the budget as you see it today. And so really want to credit the departments and our elected officials for their cooperation in work in doing this. This is a very, as I've said before, and I don't want to understate it, our county and counties in general are very complex organizations. When you look at all of the services and everything within it, it's a lot of it's an accumulation or amalgamation of a lot of different services that we provide under one umbrella called the county. And so as diverse as it is in terms of the various functions, statutory and others that we do, to bring it all together in a budget process that flows well is a work in progress. And you've experienced this work in progress, Lena, probably more than anyone else. Each year, we always make some changes to the budget process. Last year, it seemed like we did kind of this we just maxed out. It was a marathon. It was like the three-year sprint. It was all in 3 weeks. And that took a toll. It really does take a toll because there's only so much capacity an individual can absorb. And to that end, what we did this year, and I think, and I want to ask for your feedback in a moment, when we separated the presentations from the departments and the elected offices earlier in the spring, and then take the time to absorb that information. And then I thought all of the presentations from departments were very well done. It also provided the opportunity for us to group departments in areas of similar activities, justice services, others as well. It provided the opportunity for you to receive information in a group that made sense. And so, that was an important part of it. And then we took a few weeks to space that out. And then we began a couple of weeks ago with the budget process, where we focused in on the numbers, the increments, the budget. And that is, that was important because that's what the budget process is about. It is about us going through and creating a tentative, and then finally, from then a final budget based on the numbers, revenues, expenditures, the drivers that we can influence and the drivers that we cannot. Yesterday was a very good example of there are some drivers that really at this time are beyond our control at this particular time, and that is the participation of the state with regard to things that we do here locally. And again, big unknown in that area is the state budget still not being resolved. And so again, there are a lot of different drivers that come up to that create the dynamic that we're experiencing. And so going back to my original point is we separated presentations. Now we did a lot of the numbers work, which was important. And the other part of that, though, was recommendations. So the manager's recommendations on increments to you is part of that as well. And so as we go forward to next year, what we want to do is look at the process in total. And we're not going to do this today, but if there's some immediate things that you have an opinion on or reaction to when you look at this year's budget process that we can use as we design next year's budget process, that's going to be very helpful. But again, as I said before, I think that it is good that we separated presentations. It was good that we saved time to do good work. It was good that we had recommendations. There are some things that we still have not perfected. One of them, and a big one, are the materials. A lot of paper, a lot of referencing, a lot of materials that's flowing back and forth. And admittedly, it is confusing. It's frustrating to you all. It's challenging for us at the staff level to continue to produce information. And yes, there was a couple of days, maybe one day in particular, where it was a little overwhelming. What book are we looking at? What material? The other one, it's like, do we want to do binders or accordion files? All those things that make it easier for you to handle material. So your feedback in that area is going to be important, but we clearly have the message that the materials, as good as they all are, we do need to get a better handle on how we produce, disseminate. Also the materials that go to EOLT. Several messages that came to us via text this year as we were going through each day, hey, can we get the materials that we're going over? And that came from leadership. There was 10 people in the room. There was probably 50 or 60 people that were watching the proceedings online. And so for our ability to make sure that they too are seeing the materials that you're seeing at that time is important to us as well. So again, those are just introductory comments, Mr. Chair, members of the board, on the process. And again, we've got a few minutes to ask you all if there's some immediate, hey, while it's fresh on my mind, can we do this? Or here's something to think about. I leave that to you. But again, this is not the end of that. We will always receive and we always ask for your input on anything that we can continuously improve on. Mr. Chair, just again, that's just an introductory on the process itself.
Thank you for that introduction and that summary of the process. Do we have any feedback at this time from board members? And just immediate feedback. I know it's going to take a little time to kind of digest and marinate over it to come with some ideas for next year. But at the moment, are there any comments by board members? Supervisor Horstman.
Yeah, and first and foremost, a huge thank you to really everyone here in the county that was involved in the budget, which means everyone. And we understand this is extremely lengthy and extremely time consuming. And these two back here, Lindsay and Val, you guys have been great, just trying to keep it all together and keeping all the pages and keeping the notices, and just a huge thank. And not only that, being with us for all day and all night. So a huge thank you. And to the department heads, of course, for their hard work on this. Of course, finance, thank you for filling in for Siri. We hope we didn't get her sick. And a big thank you to Siri for all the hard work that she and her staff in your office do. And of course, county management. We understand this has been a huge process, and we certainly appreciate it as probably our most, at least one of our top three most important functions as supervisors to oversee the budget. And in that, it's trying to find that sweet spot of having enough information for us to make informed decisions. And sometimes is extremely overwhelming getting the spreadsheet after spreadsheet. So it's really important that we do hear from the department heads and we do hear from county management on the digestion of it and, quite frankly, the recommendations. So just kind of off the top of my head, those are some of my thoughts. I really liked the systems approach, the grouping of departments. I also appreciated the departments meeting with us for some extended board meetings to give us the overview of their departments. It would have been helpful for me, and I think we started doing that as we proceeded on. It was kind of an organic moving process to have the department heads then hear when we talk about the numbers. Because sometimes it was a few months ago, and so our memories may be faulty. But second of all, when you start getting into the kind of meat and potatoes of the numbers, it's good to have them, I think, here and present. And I also think to the extent that we can, it's important that the department heads are here in person. I know that there's just a different vibe and a different feeling and a different level of understanding when we're able to all be in the same room together. So, Mr. Chair, that's kind of my thoughts.
Thank you. Are there other thoughts from other board members? Supervisor Fowler.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you to all the staff. I know this is actually a year-round process. Once we're done with the budget, everybody starts analyzing how it all went on their end. And it's a really great process. And it took time to get here to do this. It used to be just this time, and that was it. And then it became a year-round process. And I just want to also recognize you, Steve, for during this time with being on with the board and being involved, and you and Mike Townsend developed the 10-year plan. And that right there has really saved us through the years. Being able to look out 10 years out and just roll everything out 10 years and putting those recession points and the unknown, that I think is just the greatest gift to Coconino County and to the residents, because that's how we develop our budget, is really looking at that to see how is it going to impact on the years to come. Now we're waiting for recession to hit because it hasn't hit in a while. So, but we did go through a recession. So I just want to recognize you for that. And then I thought that presenting the departments coming and telling us just, giving us an overview as what they do in the each department and how they all come together and how they work together. That I thought was really good. I think what would have helped too is during their presentation, give us at least a glimpse of what their budget is like and what they are requesting for. That would, I think, helped a little bit during that time. And it would help too if the department heads or if they were here during our discussion. It's really good to have that interaction. We know they're online, but it's very different. We don't see them. Like right now, we can't see them. Right. We're just looking at ourselves.
Good point.
Which is, I can see myself over there. But I think it makes a difference when we're all together. So, but overall, though, you all do a great job in putting together the budget and then just the recommendations, and then just not overlooking the needs. That is the reality of the needs that's there. But this is why we can't fund this right now.
Mhm.
And saying, okay, we found a way to help this department with their requests. Being able to um, work it out and then bring it back to the staff. You all are very good at doing that, and over the years you've really affected that, and I think it's really good. So budget, I always thought that, and I still believe that budget it is one of the most educational time of
Mhm.
being on a board, because I think that budget, your department budget and your own budget, it's very intimate. So we go deep into it, and I just want to thank everyone for their passion about their work, about their staff, and how they believe that what they need to carry out the most quality service that they can deliver. And that's part, and it shows that you're a public servant when you're that passionate. And we see that. So I just want to thank you and all the staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from board members? Supervisor Hess?
Thank you, Chair. This has been a very big learning experience for me, and I mainly sat back and listened in order to just get as much information as possible. So I really appreciated the systems approach as you talked about. The system approach is really good to get that background. But as Lena said, I think it's really good if we have them at that time or another time throw in their budget concerns. I think that's the one big thing is what's your number one priority, two priority, three priority, and how did you get to those priorities? Because that gives us some idea of like, okay, that's the number one priority if numbers weren't a factor, but
Mhm.
numbers being a factor, this is the number one priority. It can adjust and flow. And year by year, as Supervisor Horseman's talked about, this has been the tough year. The things I really liked, the materials, definitely. I think that's going to be an ongoing process, and good luck with that. I think one of the things we really liked was the timeline, being that we can do it, but I think it can be adjusted by input from the departments. But the biggest thing I think that we owe you, the staff, is the expectations. I think we needed to state what we're stating now is we want to know what you want. We want to know why you want it. And we want to know if we can't do that, what can we do as a secondary or third or something like that. So great process. I think we'll finalize it and get there. And I've got great trust and faith in the staff and the board to really come to the hard decisions. And this is, it's always fun to be on the hard year of the money. Next year will be better, everyone tells me. So, just go full direct on me and don't take it easy, I guess. But no, great approach to the system. Great thought process, and then we'll just tighten it up. And I appreciate the staff for all their work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Begay?
Good morning, Steve and staff here. I just want to say thanks to all the staff that have been involved in developing the budgets and doing the presentations and putting compiling the information for the board to look at and consider. Last year's process, I've been involved with 2 budget processes, and for this last year, to this year, things have improved, the way that presentations went. And I felt that, was more together than, from the previous 2 years that I've seen it. Maybe it's because I was new and there's certain ways I see budgets and present it way back with some of the work that I've done. So, but nonetheless, I think, it has improved. And then also, I know that we're not sure about the budget this year. There's going to be issues, that we need to bring back up, or plans that may have to be relooked at. And I think that we just need to get the information, and then also the budget in order. Even a tentative budget. So I just want to say that as far as presentation, gathering, stuff like that, I think that, yeah, we were playing, trying to find out things in our books and stuff like that. But nonetheless, at the end, it all worked out. So, but all in all, you worked with this board, for the past 3 years. Our styles, what we expect and things like that. So I think that would be something that would be utilized for the next, for the coming years. But anyway, I just want to say thank you so much. And I really don't see any changes. Things are going to change, going to change again, every year. There's different ways that, people present the budgets and do the budget. So I want to specifically thank Lindsay, the two up there. Can't remember her name. I was just ready to say that. But anyway, I walked in this morning. I said, Lindsay, were you still sitting up? Ooh. And then she goes, yeah, I did. I said, that's okay. Say that, I think we did pretty good this year, all in all, as I see it. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone who's been involved in this budget process. I know last year the feedback was 3 weeks was too intense. I think what I learned this budget time around, that 8 weeks is probably too long, because we tried to attach it into our regular board meetings, and so then we ended up having 12-hour board meetings multiple times. So if there's a way to condense it a little bit, find a happy medium there, maybe multiple, like instead of 4 board meetings or budget meetings in a week, maybe 2 for several weeks. Because just some of the presentations from the beginning, by the time we got to the numbers, it felt disconnected because it was so long since we'd heard that information. It was great having them come in. Love having the different departments come in and share us. Really appreciated those departments that really focused on organizational resilience and incorporated that in their presentations and discussed how they apply it in their departments, and learned a lot, and really appreciated having that opportunity with each of the departments. I agree. I would like to see the department heads here, and especially when we're talking about the numbers, because then that way there's quick response and also the opportunity. It's just, you're able to bond more when it's in person. We found that out in our first budgets when we had to do them all virtual, to coming back into person. And there's just that element that being in person and being able to communicate strengthens that bond. And so I hope we can do more of that moving forward. With the process itself, I appreciated having the increments and all the information. I did think that we got a little ahead of ourselves giving the investment recommendations first before we'd actually gone through the department increments, just so that it would have been helpful for me to understand how we got to that point. And so if there was one recommendation on that, I would say provide us through all the increment requests and then bring us those recommendations of where the focus and priority is. So that way we're not having to backfill to figure that out, why it's a priority. We understand it as we go through the process. But other than that, I'm pleased with where we're at. I think that we got there. It got bumpy at times, and it felt long and stretched out. And there were times it was hard to remember information from a month ago. But I think through all that, we weathered the storm. I think we're in a good place with our budget. We still have a few things to kind of tie up, but I feel comfortable with where we're at. And it feels good knowing that we might be able to get out of here with a half a day instead of a full day. And that's a testament to everybody's work and going through and just streamlining the process. And so again, thank you everybody who's been involved in this process, which is the majority of our county. This was an all hands on deck process, and it shows, and as was mentioned before, the passion of our staff, the passion of everybody involved really came out. And it's a beautiful thing to see, because it's, this is our county at work, and as mentioned before, as supervisors, budgetary responsibility is one of our primary responsibilities. And so this is an important process. And so And I appreciate the acknowledgement of continuously improving. We're constantly trying to get better, and that's with everything. And so, thank you for your leadership, Steve, and for the management team for guiding us through this. And let's finish out strong.
Bet.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and your feedback. Again, at any time that something said, oh, that's right, I forgot about one thing I want to put on the table, let us know. I just want a couple closing remarks on this particular topic. Is a budget is a statement of values of the organization. If you look at our budget, it reflects your leadership, your governance. It reflects our organizational values, and it is truly that. It is filled with numbers, but it's also aspirations. It's also things that we want to tackle. It's visions for the future. And I always say this, the best book that if anyone wanted to learn more about the counties, look at our budget book. Finance does a fantastic job. It is our story. It talks about our past. It talks about our economy. It talks about our most valuable resource here are our employees. 1,200 individuals each and every day that are out doing good stuff. And again, it's a good book. People say, are you kidding me? No, it is a good book. I've seen budget books before. Ours tells our story very well. And so again, we'll continuously look at improving. It'll change from year to year, but again, credit to this organization and to the governing board for your leadership and putting together what truly is, the county's statement of values. So with that, I will wrap it there. And I will turn it over to Andy. I think we're going to go over a couple things, though. We want to go over the schedule. And it's been changing, modified a little bit. And so let's just kind of sync up on the schedule. I think you have a copy in front of you. So we're here, of course, just after 8:30. And from here, I know that the library district is going to be in about 9 o'clock. And they're going to be presenting for their material. Christopher is here to go over the HERF 10-year plan increments. We're not going to have the discussion on fleet because that's some of the work we still need to do at the staff level. And so, but Christopher will be here to discuss the HERF 10-year plan and the increments from Public Works. And again, we're working on the fleet discussion. As we talked about yesterday, there's some components of fleet that we need to get a little better handle on, particularly as it relates to EVs and hybrids, et cetera. And so that's going to be an important part. Flood control was scheduled at 10:30. Lucinda is still ill. And I know that she would absolutely want to be here for that presentation. So we're going to push this part of the budget process out a week or so. We can do this. We can pull this in at a board meeting under the flood control district. And so we can push this out and we'll find a time in the next meeting or two to do this. And then we also want to have a brief, just an update with regard to our outside agency partner funding. The recommendation for this year is a 10% CPI, and we'll have a sheet that shows the list of the outside agencies and the funding that we've provided in the last 2 to 3 years. And so you'll have that big picture. For now, though, we want to ask Andy to come up, and we want to continue our discussion from yesterday on the $1 million. And so, again, that was the $1 million discussion where we had funding available. We had recommendations. We'll go over the sheet with you. We had particular conversation on Division 7. Sharon is here with us today to talk about some of the numbers and the differences that we saw on one of the sheets. Andy, is there anything else besides? Okay, so I will give it to Andy.
Okay, thank you, Steve, for that wrap up. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the feedback from the board as we work to improve the process for next year. And Supervisor Hess, it really hit home when we talked about expectations and really as staff and as the board communicating with one another so we can all work with our departments to provide to you the information that we need going forward. And admittedly, the books and the materials are significant. And I think this process, the last couple of days, as we've handed out materials, as we've discussed the materials, has been super helpful. So it's right in front of us. And so anyway, really appreciate the feedback and thanks for leading us through that, Steve. So I'm a little out of breath. Used to just sitting there and but we handed out the 3-year county partner funding history. We wanted you to have that because we did have some partner agencies address you yesterday. So just wanted to see what that looks like with the base and then the 10% CPI for those partner agencies as well. So for example, we have the FACTS program through the Alliance, as well as the Economic Policy Institute. We've utilized that Policy Institute, as you know, for post-fire flood impacts, as well as impacts to our visitorship and parks and recreation, et cetera. Cooperative extension, Greater Flagstaff Forest Partnership, which continues to prove to be a very valuable partnership. And as we work with flood control and forest restoration in the future, Jay Smith, our forest restoration director, has been very successful in obtaining grants through that group. Creative Flagstaff, we heard from them yesterday as well. You know, their funding is about $16,000 a year, and then they requested the $50,000 yesterday. And then, of course, United Way, which is one of our umbrella funding partners with the workforce campaign, been a very strong connection with United Way in Coconino County historically. And then with our natural disasters, that partnership has proven itself and its strength in the community for so many years now. So you see the agency funding there, and then they had the specific request yesterday for $35,000 for the pre-K Elevate pre-K program. So with that, just wanted you to see that snapshot.
Supervisor Horstman.
2 questions on this. First of all, on Creative Flagstaff, I'm assuming those numbers are reflective of our lease or the building.
Sorry, I'm just.
So yeah, so it look, so 16,000, 17,500. So it's 16,000 plus the CPI.
No, I guess my question is when 23, 24, 25, is that reflective of actual cash or is that reflective of in kind?
That is actual cash.
Thanks.
We
Okay.
have a recurring 16,000 that we have given them for several years.
Dynamite.
And then that's what they get the 10% on. The in kind from the lease is not reflected on.
Okay, thanks. And then the second thing is what I haven't seen on here, and I know this came up last year and we didn't include it in the budget because I think it came up afterwards. That is our participation with Forfry. We help pay for the, as do Forest Service, as does other stakeholders for a facilitator. And wasn't that $2,500 last year, Steve?
I believe it was, and I think given the amount, we just paid it out of contingency, but
Okay.
if it's a recurring account amount, we can.
Because I know that they have made a request yet again for,
Okay.
yeah, so something just to consider to put in there.
Glad it.
Oh, one question I had on the request from Creative Flagstaff for the $50,000. Is that a one-time request or is it a recurring request?
One time.
One time? Thank you.
So if no other questions on the partner funding history.
One moment, Vice Chair.
So everything that is listed on here, we've been doing recurring for the past 3 years, and so And then on top of that, you know, we have that 50,000 that they're asking for. Is this the list of everything, everybody that has asked for? Or is just the it's just the county partnership funding?
Correct.
So it is a requirement, it's mandatory that we fund them? Or is
No,
it
there's
just
no-
dollars that you're?
There's not a statutory requirement for these, for this level of community
Right.
support.
And then are there any that we have to have? Like, by Patrice earlier? Are they, which one of those were, 25? Or fry, those type of things is what I'm
Right.
asking. Are they
Well,
on this list too? Maybe on.
Well, the 4 fry, we're going to add to the list since that's a recurring program support. But of this list, in looking at it, there is not a statutory requirement to provide funding to agencies. This is a community partnership program that we've had for 20+ years. And so what you see is the last 3 years, but we can go back to, I think the Alliance began back in 2001. It was Alliance for the 21st Century. And so again, so it began, all of these began at various times in the past.
Supervisor Horseman.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the ones on here are important. Not only do they provide services to our community, they are also kind of a coalition partnership, if you will, for countywide. So I mean, I think the list looks pretty good. Except for Fry, BNAB.
Supervisor Fowler.
Yeah, this list has been here for many years, and again, it's like several of them, they're very specific. Like the transportation, those are, it's not countywide, but it's very much needed. NACOG, we're all members of that, and they try to do across. And I think that there's still it's very much Flagstaff oriented. A lot of it over the years, the Coalition for Youth, they have really tried to go, and I think they do some work countywide. I know that, so I think this list is pretty much, we're the county, we're not City of Flagstaff. So what we fund needs to make sure that we're really focused on unincorporated communities, and that's what we look at, and that's what our responsibility is. So I think some of these are very much in this region, but they're still try to work countywide. I still like to see if we can add Navajo Way back in here, because United Way does not cover Navajo, so I don't see that on there. So I think that it'd be good to add that to from here on, and we're still working with them on
Right,
that.
because
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Fowler, I do recall from last year's budget process, we did an allocation to Navajo Way. I think it was 50,000.
50,000. Mm-hmm.
But that was
It-
one-time funding.
If I may, just much like United Way coming forward, I would like to hear Navajo Way. I'd like to know what they're doing, who they serve, what neighborhoods they serve, what counties they serve, just so we have information and we make sure that our money is going to serve all of Coconino County.
Yeah, so Navajo Way serves all of Navajo Nation. And with the funding that comes out of, if it's targeted, like ours would be Coconino County, that's where it's targeted. So they do already work in Coconino County with various organizations. So they're not like United Way, very focused, or Northern Arizona United Way is very focused on children. And so Navajo Way operates a little differently as well. And we do partner with them on the tax service that we provide as well. So they provide various services as
If we could, I think it'd be great to find out what they do and where they're doing. That's all. So just like,
and-
much like
and
everybody else, we ask them to provide information, and I'd just like to see what they're doing.
You need to do that.
Please.
Chair Vasquez, Vice Chair Begay, members of the board, and as Steve had mentioned, many historical partnerships here. And then cooperative extension is on the list as well. There may be a statutory obligation on that. I don't recall, but I believe that there is. And then, of course, NAPTA. And then you'll see the NAPTA van pool taxi program in operations. That's something that we've done for quite some time as well. Did want to let you know while we're talking about that is, you know, there's some conversations with NAPTA and Mountain Lion about, you know, future county programming, and frankly, as we know with our budget process, we just don't really have we do not have the funding available to allocate towards a specific program, but Mountain Lion is very eager to begin a planning effort with that. So wanted to give you a heads up with that while we're here. And then, of course, the FACS program, that does include the Loop School as well. So, so this is the list that that we've been funding for the past 3 years, and in many cases, the last probably 20 plus years in many cases. Yeah, quite some time, but we got there, so.
Mr. Chair, if I could make a comment on the fry. This is a message from Jay Smith. The 2,500 fry facilitation for this fiscal year was paid out of the flood control district, out of the forest restoration fund, not the general fund. And then we can discuss how we want to proceed going forward. But again, okay, wait. Okay,
Supervisor Horseman, we thought that might be the case in the absence of the flood control district being here. I think we would say, let's put it in the flood control district. They can fund it. So, what? So. If she's on, she may chime
it
in.
is, yeah. So thanks, Jay, for the information.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Begay.
Yeah, we always talk about we serve all communities of the county, and there's these projects. Some of them, a lot of them, I think, they're very in certain areas, and so I'm just kind of thinking that if we are really, according to our mission vision statement, helping everyone in the county will benefit in some way. You know, I think since there's already a FACS program and Loop, you know, is that the only one that is on the reservation? As far as, you know, off not in Page or Fredonia or Grand Canyon or Flagstaff area, you know, so, you know, how can we reach out a little bit more, because it's already being done. So for this time around, I'm just thinking that you know, we really need to focus, you know, some in the rural communities that are, you know, that may be eligible for some of these services. Navajo Way, I think last year we talked about that, but, you know, nothing was, what we went and put that to another fund. I think it was $50,000. So I'm glad that, you know, that's being considered again. And then, of course, Fry. So, but since it's coming out of Lucinda's budget and she's not here, maybe we could put another FACS program on within a rural community. Thank you.
That may be a statutory stretch, but.
You know what they say, either be here and defend yourself or get added more work.
Mr. Chair, if I could make a comment, though,
Please.
you know, I think that, well, I believe that the board's comments are very good. And I think what we want to do for next year is allocate a little more time to do for agencies to present in terms of an update on programs, geographic areas served. Because we didn't do it this year, we're allocating the funding, but again, anytime during the year, but particularly as we lead up to next budget year, we can get a fuller status report from agencies. Thank you.
Thank you. The one thing that I wanted to comment on is on NACOG. If I wasn't mistaken, at the last NACOG meeting, they talked about a potential increase in fees for membership. And so I just wanted to mention that because on here, there is no change in the base amount that we're paying for those fees. And so just want to see if that's accurate or if that number is actually going to go up a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do recall seeing in my inbox our invoice from NACOG, so we'll check on that. Because as you said, these are membership fees. The other fees that are actually the membership fees for CSA, ACO, those are managed out of the government affairs budget. And I know that CSA is looking at an increase, planned increase to county assessments for this year. So, but we'll sync up on all that.
Thank you. Mr. Burleson.
Thank you, Chair Vasquez. Any other comments on partner funding history? We do have a bit more time. We have, I believe, 3 librarians here, 3 more on the way. So we'll have library district at 9. So what we can do is we can talk about the investment list. And on that list, it's the other handout that I handed out today. Remember yesterday afternoon, we talked about beating the budget until it confesses. And so this is our morning confessional with that. But the green you'll see on here, we added the conversation related to the treasurer, creative flag, and United Way. And thank goodness you're here, Sharon Yates is here from the courts to talk about the Division 7. We did work that one as well until it confessed, and the number arrived upon with court administration, the affected departments, finance staff, and manager staff. As we hammered this out last night, was the 403,600 number to get us through the fiscal year. Now that includes position funding needed to the end of FY25, and then offsets. We talked about the offsets, 2 court reporters, and then restoration to competency savings, etc. So Sharon's here if you have any questions on that.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Supervisor Horstman.
Yeah, thanks for being here with us. And, you know, I think as you heard from the board, maintaining Division 7 was a priority for us. And if we go forward with the recommendation as set forth in the 1 million investment sheet, my question is, will you be able to proceed appropriately with Division 7 with us going forward with this investment as recommended?
Chair Vasquez, Supervisor Horstman, yes, we will be able to proceed as recommended of 403,600.
Supervisor Fowler.
I'd like to see the breakdown on how you got to that 403. I want to make sure, you know, when you do a budget and you have way 200,000 less now than yesterday. I don't want you all to be so stressed out because the minimal staff and creates more stress. I know that it was already tight yesterday. I want to be cautious and I really want to keep pointing at the state, but at the same time, we have our responsibility here. And I like to make sure that you have enough, and that you all just didn't say, okay, we can do without this, even though we're going to be really stretched, really, 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 really thin. And we'll be stressed out even more. But I want to make sure that you are not so What was taken out? And I want to make sure the staff are still there. I know I'm very like, reduce this again, but at the same time though, and that was really a message to the state, not you all.
Chair Vasquez, Supervisor Fowler, what was reduced from the court budget was the court tech. Our clerk of court, Val Wyant, she was gracious to say that she didn't need the court tech. That's something that she's able to do without at this time. Again, we can come back before the next fiscal year budget if things aren't working and give an update to the board. But that was one thing that was cut out of the court budget. Another item was the salary savings for two court reporter positions. We're going to hold those vacant. And so you can see those salary savings reflected in the budget for the court.
And that was in here yesterday?
Yes. So at the top part, you'll see the judge pro tem was the position that we requested, the
Yeah.
judicial assistant, court security officer, the court reporters, there's a
Oh,
negative dollar amount. And then you'll see the mental health clinical court liaison and then the grand total. And that's for the whole year, the 345,000 for the whole year. And so we would need half of that for that fiscal year. And Chair, if I may, I know that the $403,000 isn't quite half. If you look at that sheet that was handed out, the total budget is 651,000. Doing simple math, half of that would not equal the 403,000. From my understanding, there are some positions currently in some of the departments that fall under Division 7, in which they don't have ARPA funding to last through December 31st. So it includes a little bit more than 6 months, because you wouldn't want a position vacant for 2 months for someone to come back in January to fill that position.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
you're
right.
welcome.
I was trying to figure out, okay, how does this work here? All right, well, thank you. And as long as that you can make this work, we are very supportive and we are still, and then I don't want to be so tight that you all are not able to carry out the duties as efficiently as you all need to do. So I know that you all put a lot of work into this. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Vice Chair Begay.
Yeah, this is another area that we really need to have our documents. So we have this here that was given to us at 651. Now we're here, we have $403 and okay. Now, just looking at this, I was thinking that you guys would tell us which ones were taken off of here to equal that amount, but now you say that there's other ARPA dollars that were used that to offset that half of that you're talking about. So I think I'm getting confused here.
I believe we just went over that, but we can go over it again. Sharon, can you
Yeah,
go
yeah.
over that again?
Chair, Vice Chair Begay. So the proposal that you have in front of you has the full dollar amount for the full year. So half of that would have been 325,000, 625,000. We need a little bit more to get us through. We have ARPA funds that end December 31st. However, some of the departments were awarded 2-year. It was just budgeted for 2 years for those positions. So there are some positions that are running out of funding before December 31st. In order to get us through December 31st and then the next 6 months of the fiscal year, it equals that 403,600.
So I understand that, but which ones, which departments are you talking about? I mean, you're telling me that you're saying that you have some from other shortages here and there, but who are they and how much for each are you talking about? That's what my question is.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair Begay. I don't have that with me. Shelley, our Deputy Court Administrator, worked directly with Siri on those numbers. So we would have to reach out to Siri to find out which of those positions are going to be short.
Mr. Chair, we can provide that as a follow-up to the board.
Yes, thank you. I think it would also be helpful if we had that breakdown of the windows because I understand where you're getting at, and knowing that there's ARPA funding running out sooner than December 31st would be helpful. So we understand why or can at least see the breakdown of why it's a little bigger than the half 6 month
Okay.
mark.
Will do.
Thank you. I really appreciate your flexibility and patience as we go through this. We want to get it right, and we're excited that we're going to continue to support it. And I know it's been a process, so thank you for all your patience and work on providing us the information we've requested.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Let me know if you have any other questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. If I can refer you back to the the investment sheet. Beyond that, we had the wages for the treasurer. And then the three items that we heard yesterday from presenters, the treasurer's office for the operational increase, Creative Flag and United Way for Elliott Pre-K. And so we've done, and thanks to Megan, we've just turned the orientation and we've subtracted. And so at this point in time, based on what you see on the list, the balance of funds that have not been committed yet, these are one-time dollars, is the amount you see there, 67,000.
Thank you. And I guess the $1 million question is now the $67,000 question is, what is the recommendation for that remaining balance?
If not committed to a line item, it would just be a part of our fund balance. And so,
All right.
I
Thank you.
bet you we're going to find a use for it.
That's what I was getting at. Vice Chair Begay.
I know we've been talking about a tribal liaison. Where is this at? Is it being recommended? Is it being looked at by the board? And where is it at?
well, that's pending your discussions as the board in retreat. It was originally funded by one-time funding 2 years ago as a contract. That was the only time, and it was not filled. And so that original amount, it was one-time funding, is what was funded at that time. Since then, the discussion from the board is to have a discussion on converting that contract into a position. That would be a recurring cost. And so that would be the discussion. But it is not recommended at this time. Again, that's the staff recommendation, but again, that topic has been on the board's retreat agenda for a couple of times, and we just have not been able to get to it.
Supervisor Horseman.
And I know we're going to have more retreats, but right now I just want to get through budget. But I know we want to have continuing discussion on DEI. I know we want to have a continuing discussion on the Coconino County Tuba City Service Center, which I think is, I know, a priority for many of us. And I think in terms of a liaison, that may be the great time to be talking about that as well. So I hope that we can have a more vigorous discussion and in detail discussion on all three of those items in the future.
Thank you. I agree. I think with this increment request and the investment, I think we still have a little bit of time, and there's some requests of possible other presentations for that other amount. And so maybe we can look into that moving forward.
Mr. Chair, what we can do, again, depending on the board's discussion, we can reserve that amount as a board initiatives line item to be determined at a later date. But again, we can commit those items just for general board initiatives and then go from there based on future discussions and presentations.
Great. Thank you. All right. Are there any other questions or comments from board members at this time before we move on to the next item? Okay. In that case, I hand it over to our county manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, we are going to ask our library district partners to come forward. Thank you very much. So we have, come on down.
we'll have to fix this. Okay. All right, perfect. Can everyone hear me? Yes? Yeah? Is this better? Okay. So Corey's handing out the slides for you to look at too and to have for reference later. Oh, I'm sure everyone here mostly knows me. I'm Damaris Hill and I'm the county librarian. And it has been a pleasure to be here so far. I've really enjoyed Flagstaff and we've made a lot of progress out at the branches. So I'm going to get started. We're going to start with the fun stuff. I want to talk a little bit about how the library is more than meets the eye. We do more than circulate books. Our libraries are much more than graphs and statistics, and all of our libraries are the hub of their community. I wanted to share some pictures and activities. This is our Forest Lakes branch. The building is multi-purpose, but Hawk does a lot with a little out there. Family crafts, a quilters club, book clubs, summer reading, family programs, story times. The Grand Canyon, every year we have a Shakespeare festival. So we bring Shakespeare to the canyon. Tuba City, in Tuba City, the library is the place to be. The mural was painted by a local artist. And it also is where the supervisor of elections office is. And you can see there's the elders, they come every Wednesday and do stories for the kids. And people just hanging out using the computers. Sedona has a beautiful outdoor area. They had a really fun program this summer where they got to roast marshmallows. Williams, they do their haunted house every year. And Danielle said they had 197 people this year go through the haunted house. It's one of the most popular things in their community. Fredonia, Tanya also does a lot with the little. That's Tanya there in the bottom corner. She does a lot of crafts for adults and children. They have, and then on your right, on the left side, your left, my right, the Page Public Library was named the best small library in the United States this year by Library Journal. Very cool. And then there's a couple of pictures of their library of things. So not just books, all different types of things that people can check out, and their seed library, which is at many of our branches and very popular. Our downtown branch has something for everybody. You can see folks there studying. We have a really nice teen zone. We had a job fair last week, or no, a couple weeks ago. So a lot of things happening at the library. The jail library, which I feel like is our unsung heroes because they don't do programs, they're not out in the community, but they are serving our community. Our staff there, they get expressions of gratitude each day. People sometimes cheer when the staff opens the trap and announces the library is coming. Amy and Martha have said they've seen guys race to the door which she says she's sure they're not supposed to do. She said that some has shown them art that they've drawn from pictures from the magazines that the library provides that they plan to mail to their family. And the law library provides free legal help. And one of the kudos that was given to them was, thank you for all of your help. You do an amazing job at guiding everyone through tough times. So our 2023 library statistics, we had a 42% increase in our patrons served, a 15% increase in our materials circulated, 16% increase in electronic materials, 51% increase in reference questions, 54% increase in computer sessions, 45% increase in our Wi-Fi sessions, and 54% and 46% increase respectively in our programs and the attendees. So every year, the need for the library goes up. And that being said, that also means that our budget needs to go up, not just for staff, but to continue to provide the programming that we do. This slide shows how we prioritize, and of course, wages and benefits and operational infrastructure is first, but sadly, what ends up suffering is our programming. And of course, as we all know, we have rising costs and inflation, personnel and operational both, including the higher minimum wage. Our affiliate libraries, Fredonia, Page, and Sedona, and Williams, they are also facing increased costs, but for now, they're holding their own. We do have branches who right now are relying on their fund balances. Although Forest Lakes and Grand Canyon have a healthy fund balance, the bookmobile does currently, but that's because it hasn't been out on the road for 4 years. The future necessity of buying a new bookmobile will deplete the fund. And in addition, it has an $18,000 a year shortfall. And Tuba City and the jail no longer have any fund balance and are running at a deficit. And this is, very bad for Tuba City because for a lot of folks, the Tuba City Library is the only thing that they have to do extra things. So we do have some shared positions, the library district and the county. We have 3 IT positions and 1 county cataloger. And the IT costs on this graph shows us the shared database and e-materials. And then we also get $25,000 additional that comes from an annual state grant. And the city of Flagstaff contributes $20,000. So for the future, Flagstaff is balanced for the current fiscal year, but we have nearly $190,000 of needs that are unfunded, and the 5-year plan shows that we cannot continue at the current allocation in the future. So we have 3 options that we wanted to share with you. The first option shows Tuba City, the jail, and the bookmobile libraries as having the most need. And as was discussed in 2022, we are requesting a 0.01 increase in rate per $100 value in fiscal year 25. But due to additional needs, we would like a second or third option to be considered. Option 2, this addresses the shortfall for our Tuba City jail and bookmobile libraries. For fiscal year 25, we are requesting a 0.02% increase. This would allow us to allocate $20,000 to the bookmobile, $7,500 to the jail, and $15,000 to Tuba City. This would correct our imbalance in our budgets for those branches, and it would make their budgets whole. And then the remainder of the increase would be allocated amongst the libraries according to our IGA. Option 3, which is the option that we would really love to have because it would help us get a nice new bookmobile so we could serve our portions of our county that are currently not getting served as they should. We're requesting a commitment of 2 years of a 0.02 increase in rate per $100 value each year. So that means for fiscal year 25, we are requesting a rate increase of 0.02%, split as indicated in option 2. And then for fiscal year 26, an additional 0.02% of every $100 value is requested, with 0.01% dedicated to fund the replacement of the bookmobile, and the other 0.01% for every 100 split between the other libraries as outlined in the IGA. So this is just an options slide. I'm not going to read all of this to you. I know that you'll look at it further. The three options that we presented today. So I also want to let everyone know that visitors are always welcome. I love to take people out on field trips to our county branches. I'm very, very proud of what all of our county branches do, our affiliates and our small branches that are out there. My staff is awesome, and I would love to share that with you. If you would like to take a field trip, just call or email, and I'd love to take you out and show off the branches. And does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I just wanted to provide the staff recommendation is option 3, as it does address some of the shortfalls in libraries, but as important and maybe even more importantly, it does address our opportunity to address bookmobile services going forward. So our recommendation at this time to you as the Library District Board is option 3, and really want to appreciate the staff for presenting this. And I also want to appreciate the City of Flagstaff. They have been basically the administrator of our library district for many, many years. And so appreciation to the staff as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Horseman.
Thank you for all you do. And, when we talk about outreach across the county, I mean, the library district does that. And it's exactly, it's such an important part of so many communities, especially in our really rural parts of Coconino County. So, we've want to be able to continue to support the library district and what we can. It's pretty interesting to see in your statistics is with as much work is done on computers now, as much screen time is done. It's so wonderful to see the use of the library. And not only that, but the use of the library is increasing. And I think that has to do with your programming and the importance of the community outreach and the programs that you offer all across Coconino County. So thank you, and thank the staff for your great work. Second question is, I remember we were talking last year about the bookmobile and the possibility of using some of our funding with our capital projects and loan. And I know it's a strange situation because we have this joint MOU, MOA, whatever it is, IGA with with the City of Flagstaff. So I don't know where we are on that. And maybe the county manager can help us with that.
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Horseman, we did discuss at that time, we were putting together the debt financing list, and the bookmobile was discussed as a possibility. I'll have to check on that, because right now we are looking at the debt financing list, and there are some projects that have fallen off. But again, I just want to check on that because it's a special district versus the general fund. And I think that was the difference, is that it is basically the fact that the library district is just that, and not a general fund. We might have a problem with the debt financing part, but nonetheless, though, either way, whether we look at that or option 3, the goal would be to get our bookmobile.
Because I love the bookmobile. I want to see the bookmobile going full speed ahead. So if you could check that out, I think that would be really important. Otherwise, certainly I also appreciate your recommendation of option 3.
Vice Chair Begay.
Thank you for the presentation. As a library board member, I wholeheartedly support the recommendation for option number 3, only because I see the need out there. I visited, both, most of them at least several times. So just kind of observing, see how the operation is going, talking to staff, and also utilizing some services there. So I just want to say that, again, I wholeheartedly take the recommendation from the administration here. So thank you very much for your presentation. And there's a lot that happens, you know, a lot of things that happen with, and we always talk about kids trying to catch them at an early age, you know, early intervention, stuff like that. This is part of it. So and so they can be a better person and make better decisions later on in life. And that's what we've been talking about during our budget session. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Supervisor Fowler?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. The library is the heart of the community. Once the library comes, opens their doors, well, usually people are sitting outside before they open the doors. So, and I just have to, being a librarian too, it's gotta be so patient. You have the children, you have you across the board, all ages that are coming through, and all of them have a little mission of their own. And that little mission of their own, a lot of times, is you, you you're there to fulfill that. It is just I just am so happy that we have this library system and partnership with the city of Flagstaff and all the towns, city of Page, the Fredonia, and just really being able to provide that service there. I know in Tuba, we had that small hogan that we used to have, brick hogan. Then when we completed the building, that's where the library moved in. And just that is the pride and joy of a community. So I just want to thank you for that. And that bookmobile, it is so important. In not being able to reach out and being able to say that we being able to provide that service. Today we talk about, that everything's on the phone. Everyone's, technology's taken over us. Yet there are many that still love that book in their hand, being able to fumble through, being able to have a conversation about what they just read, and being able to sit there and have somebody read a verse to you. That is so beautiful. So I want to just thank you all for providing that service, and we fully support this. And I just don't see any other option than option 3. And I just think that through the years, you've been very conscientious on how you do your budgeting and your budget requests. So thank you. Really appreciate. And then Deb and I were talking about having the whole Page team come before the board. And Lindsay and I we were all working on it, and then budget started. So at some point, we're still going to have the city of Page, the staff come out and come before the board just to be recognized, because that is such an amazing, just amazing award. And we just had our mixer at the library there. And they had to cancel at 1, then we rescheduled, and we had the mixer there. So yeah, so thank you.
Supervisor Hess?
Thank you, Chair. I have real quick story. My son had a report he had to do just a couple weeks ago, and me just moving back, I was like, well, we got to go to a library. And it was when the downtown was closed, but the books we wanted were there. But your staff did an amazing job to get those books. They got them the next day, and they were so helpful and made the process so easy. I still have my I can get right now. I can go there. So I got my card on me. And the other part of that story is when I got the books home, my mom, huge reader, jumped in there and helped my son do the report. And it was so cool to see the generations, and my mom helping my son, and it was very cool. So your staff was amazing and
Thank-
so helpful. I mean, and then just turning the books in was like, here you go. And they were like, thank you. And it was just very helpful. So, and not having a bookmobile, I mean, being a kid here in Flag, you know, the bookmobile was like exciting. So I think every kid and every person deserves that experience. So I definitely support this, and I definitely think we need the bookmobile. So let's make it happen. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's really cool to hear all of the cool things that our libraries are doing throughout the county. I'm really excited to see that the manager's office recommends option 3. I had some questions about option 3, but seeing how manager's office is recommending it, I think I'm okay with it. I do just appreciate the value of libraries in our communities. It's a public space, you know, and sometimes, especially for those more vulnerable in our communities or less fortunate, that might be the only place where they can get internet or access to a computer, or access to reading materials. And so it's such a great value. And then creating the bookmobile and having the ability to bring books and technology on the road to our rural communities is so important. And so really excited to see that we're going to be able to go with option 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And-
All have a good day.
Mr. Chair, one of the projects
you.
that we'll be working on is getting all of you on a tour of our libraries. So again, that would be great to.
I would love to do it, but I want to do it on the bookmobile. I want to go there on the bookmobile.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. All right. Next up on the agenda. Would everybody like to take a 5-minute break? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break. Let the team get ready for the next presentation. Thank you. Next up, we have the conversation about HERF 10-year plan. So with that, I'll hand it over to our Director, Public Works, Christopher Tressler.
Thank you, Chair Vasquez and members of the Board of Supervisors. I think, just want to say real quick, we just talked about the library, and I can say that one of the joys of my life in the last 8 months has been to see my little daughter learn how to read, and the strength and just the self-confidence that it's built in her is something I never realized how happy and how exciting that is. And so let's talk about building roads to get these kids to school, okay? Or get them to the library. And so I think we wanted to talk about, yeah, right? Exactly. I think we want to review the increment request for Public Works, and maybe that will start the conversation, and we can talk into potentially some other specific things that this may spur. So these, we just passed out, Jeremy Floyd, our Administrative Services Division Manager, passed out 3 documents, a copy of our increment requests, and then the 2 10-year plans for Public Works. So I want to look at our increment requests. I need to share that on the screen. Here we go. Is that Sharon, Lindsay? So these increment requests represent about 8% of our total annual revenue. The first section relates to public safety, and we prioritize these at the top of the list. So they're most important to public safety, safety of roads. They relate to guardrail replacements, the striping, cleaning, getting the gravel that and the cinders that we spread on the roads. We need to get that off. It becomes an issue for dust and people's breathing. Then our sweeping and other guardrail repairs. The Lucity and Central Square line item is the application, the software application that we use to manage all of our work orders. When we get concerns from residents, they call into Public Works. It's the system we also manage all of those concerns and complaints so that we can effectively respond to them. Typically, these represent an increase of about $570,000. Typically, we've either fallen below the mark that we want because of our ability to spend, or we've used salary savings to cover the cost of these items. We've seen inflation grow maybe faster in the construction industry than other places, and we'd like to formalize in our budget line items for these things. Some of these programs, like the establishment of our safety and training program, we just like to take it to the next level. We have more young and less experienced operators than we've ever had. We need to invest in them. We're already doing a great job. We help them get their commercial driver's license, and the training that we put into them is helping to decrease the number of accidents and damage to infrastructure and equipment. We're investing into our people, and it's really paying off, but there's still more that we need to do. And then I skipped over, I'm sorry, this increased in O&M is for our facilities. Public Works has facilities here closer to Flagstaff at our Sheep Hill Yard, but we also have a pretty significant facility in in Williams and in Parks. We have barns throughout the county that store equipment, and several of them are reaching the end of their service life. Things like the overhead doors and become safety issues. Those doors weigh hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. And when they fail, it can be catastrophic. And so we're already well into a program of evaluating all those doors and bringing them up to a standard. We have, moving down the list, planning studies. We'd like to be poised better to go after grants and other government funding opportunities that federal government funding opportunities that become available. And using this planning money will help us be more poised and in a position to apply for some of these grants. We're doing a really good job, and we have this week when we send out our report to leadership, we're going to have a whole list of the grants that we've applied for and the different programs we're pursuing. But this continues to put us in a good position for those areas. The next section is in our heavy equipment shop. We maintain a large fleet of heavy equipment, and we're looking to do a better job maintaining it. With everything that we can do, we still can't do everything. And some things are more significant when we pull motors out of graders and rebuild them and things. And so you'll see there's a line item that's pretty significant of $245,000 in addition to what we already do. So it's a total of $600,000 for that line. But that's plowing snow and the equipment on the highway. It's just really hard on the equipment, and in a sense, it's the cost of doing business. And so we're looking for an increase in the heavy equipment shop. There's a couple of FTEs in here that we're looking at. The heavy equipment mechanic one is really important to us. We're looking at half. Public Works is, and the transportation fund wants to cover half the FTE for a parts manager and a parts run. That might be a little bit premature at this time. So we're looking at mechanical services taking the other half of those, but we need to get to a better place in mechanical services with the budget and our fee rate study that we're completing. And so at this time, we may, it's probably best to put those two half FTEs in the transportation fund on hold, and until we can really get a holistic view of the mechanical services budget, we make some decisions moving forward about hybrid electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles and the cost of some of those things. So definitely we're asking our increment request for a heavy equipment mechanic, but the parts manager and the parts runner, we'd probably hire that out, get some temporary people there until we get to a better place in our budget so we can continue with our level of service. Those are our increment requests, and it's an increase of just a little more than 1.4 million or just less than 1.5 million. Our annual revenues are somewhere around $32 million. So the scale of it, that might put some perspective into it. Are there any questions about the increment requests?
Supervisor Horstman.
Yeah, thank you. And I know there's been a couple questions asked about electric vehicles versus hybrid vehicles. And we know Coconino County, the second largest county geographically in the continental United States, and the concerns about charging stations and just the isolation and rural part of Coconino County makes that difficult. So I understand, just looking at hybrid. And I've read lots of studies saying that, when you look at the cost of a hybrid vehicle versus the overall savings, it's the right thing to do, but it's still an expensive proposition. So my question is are there federal monies available for retooling a fleet to hybrid? Is there, some way we can take a look at taking advantage of the country's commitment to carbon neutrality and obviously sustainability to basically look at our fleet change?
Yeah, Chair Vasquez and Supervisor Horstman, we're certainly looking for those opportunities to leverage grant dollars, maybe from the federal government or other programs, to help transition us to a lesser carbon footprint. So we're definitely looking at that. And our county manager, Steve said that he pointed out to me a couple weeks ago that it's not just about dollars, Christopher. It's also about carbon footprint and decreasing the carbon footprint. And there's a cost associated with that, but let's have a full cost accounting at that, and so that we can make an informed decision. And so that's what we're putting together.
Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Vice Chair Begay?
Under your outside services, what kind of outside services is that budgeted?
Chair Vasquez and Vice Chair Begay. Thank you. So that mainly relates to our heavy equipment shop. The county runs Caterpillar for the most part in graders and John Deere equipment. And so we have two vendors that provide services to us for maintenance that we can't do internal. And some of it's pretty significant. Some of it is that when our shop gets full and we start to spill over, we use the RDO and we use Empire to help cover that increase in maintenance that we're incurring or that's exceeding our capacity at that time. So it's maintenance of equipment.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, please.
So we have two 10-year plans in front of you. If we could, I'd like to start with the road maintenance sales tax plan. This is specific to Proposition 403, and it's typically most of our capital. And so the top of that one, it's titled Road Maintenance Sales Tax 10-Year Financial Plan. The top section of it is our revenue. And you can see where we've consistently realized revenue around $14 million, $13 to $14 million for the last few years. And when Prop 403 was passed, it was expected that we would get around 7 million. So we're exceeding expectations. That's part of what's caused us to race against our expenditure limit. But our roads need it, frankly. And when we have winters like we did 2 winters ago, it's a blessing to have that amount of resources to help address the natural disaster and the snowstorms. So we aim to spend in fiscal year 25 about $23 million in road projects. And you can see that right underneath the shaded area. It says total expenditures in fiscal year 25 is $23 million. You're going to look back this year, we're expected to spend about $20 million, but in fiscal year 23, it was only about 6.9 million. And the reason why that's considerably less is as we realized how close we were to the expenditure limit, we pushed pause on some of our construction projects and some of our purchases until we found out where we were going to be at. We didn't want to race into an exceedance of the expenditure limit. So we paused a little bit. But if you look further out into the out years, you can see that in fiscal year 28, we expect to spend in equipment and construction projects just under $8 million. Then it gets up to about $11 million in 2023. So sustainably, we expect to spend somewhere on average around $10 million a year. Some years it might be a little bit more, some years it'll be a little less, if our projections for revenue are consistent. You can see at the bottom is our fund balance after all the expenditures and transfers out to support operations. And at the end of our 10-year plan, we expect to still have in the bank about $20 million. We aim to spend that down more. We need to understand our expenditure limit better. We need to work with Syrian finance, and we need to do this incremental. So I guess the takeaway from this is that the county's investing in the next 2 years, this year and next year, over $20 million in roadway infrastructure. And we have the money in the bank to do it. Our revenues are strong, and our fund balance looks healthy in the out years. I think those are the takeaways for the road maintenance sales tax fund. when we talk about setting priorities for road projects, I think that's one step below what we want to talk about today, and it's getting into the weeds. But we definitely, historically, we've always come to the board and given snapshot of our pavement preservation plan and our capital improvement plan. These are the areas that we're working on. We aim to keep the pavement condition index of our roads really high, and we're testing some products on our dirt roads that are hopefully going to help with dust control. They're going to help the roads last longer, our gravel roads without washboard. So we're testing these products. We're trying to be innovative. We're trying to save money where we can so we can do a better job of it. So that's the road maintenance sales tax fund, or the RMST fund. It doesn't have salaries in it. This is just largely capped. How to point out, let's point out this part. Partway down under transfers out, there's the Navajo Nation Road Maintenance Program. So currently, Public Works blades, grades 286 miles of BIA road. We get reimbursed $167,000 for that program. So we spend in road maintenance sales tax about a little more than $500,000 every year, just in the blading program with BIA. The other program that we have for Nation Roads is the program with the Navajo Department of Transportation, where we've dedicated, and the Board of Supervisors has supported the increase of that. It used to be $200,000 a year. Now we're up to $500,000 a year. So every year we're setting aside $500,000 for projects that Navajo Department of Transportation can propose. And it's a capital matching program. So it's a team effort to accomplish some of their fuel excise projects that are on their fuel excise project plan. We're carrying a fund balance of $1 million, and it doesn't look like they're going to propose a project in this fiscal year 24. So that $500,000 that we've set aside is probably going to be carried over to fiscal year 25. So as we get through this year, in that fund balance, there'll be some, I think it's actually $1.4 million in that carryover. And then next year, they'll have another 500,000. So they'll have about 1.9 million. We're in the middle of, we're almost there, having an IGA, a new IGA agreed upon, being able to spend that money in different ways. Rather than it being a capital matching program, we'll be able to use that money to help respond to emergencies, and not even just natural disasters, but just shortcomings or shortfalls. And we'll hire contractors or Coconino County Public Works be able to expel some resources. And we're going to get some more ambiguity into that program. So we're going to stay within, the plan is to stay within this capital matching program. But that IGA needs to come before you. And the county attorney's office and Public Works has been refining that, and we're going to propose that plan to you, because it's not doing any good for the Navajo Nation, for the people traversing those roads, to have this $1 million in the bank. We need to get it on the roads. And so we're looking at a way to work with Navajo Department of Transportation to spend that money.
Question.
Supervisor Horst.
So, yes, it does. I mean, many, two people on here do it a lot, and I've done my share on the roads up there in tribal lands. The need is there. I mean, it is for anybody who traverses those roads. They know that. So why isn't the money going into the roads and road maintenance?
We have had, Chair Vasquez, Supervisor Begay, or Supervisor Horseman, we have had projects in the past, and we just completed one about 1.5 years ago. But there's a lot of environmental clearances, and currently the way the IGA has been written, that we can only fund construction. And there's a couple of projects that are bogged down in environmental clearances and the sensitive landscape. And so it's taken more resources to get through environmental clearances. I feel like, and we're recommending that the county should be able to use some of this money to help get through environmental clearances so that we can get to construction.
Sure.
Vice Chair Begay.
Yeah, we've been going round and round with this. The BIA, the IGA has terminated some time back. And so ever since then, even prior to that, the county has really been trying to go out and get the IGA going, and then making sure that, the IGA includes anything, everything that is more flexible, and, how we can, use these dollars. And, certainly, the Navajo Nation and tribes, in our area, I think they have a hard time, maybe identifying their share. Maybe that's one. The other thing is that, we're only limited to certain things. And so I think, to be to be able to use these dollars and with the coming years, we need to be more, the IGA needs to be more where it's doable, where we can probably interact at the beginning to the end. And it is hard with the Navajo Nation, to get matching dollars. And I think that's one of the things that we were looking at is the matching dollars that may or may not be there. So again, I just think that we can get involved in, in all aspects of this road maintenance and construction or whatever. We need to have, we need to do that. So and then I just want to thank, the board for, really looking at this, last year as we up up to $500. And, certainly the roads are bad. In the road maintenance, is very limited agreement also, for the 286 miles of blading that we're doing. There's certainly a need. Maybe, we can go the extra mile. I can actually say from the Cow Springs going into Inscription House, there's a little valley there. That road is really bad. Well, plus a mile, I think. It's about a mile, half a mile. Really, really muddy, and buses get stuck there. And, they've been contacting, I believe, the both of us, to see what we can do with that. And we could easily use some of those dollars, to go in there and do something with even just that area. So, but I just want to say that we really need to make sure we get that done, or we can't. And the other thing is that we do have an issue with another area, which is 21 miles south of Coal Mine, the entrance and the exit of a certain area and that was the holdup. And getting this IGA completed also. So now, as stated before, let's just go around it, deal with that later, and not uphold, everything else that needs to get done. So that's where things are at IGA. But certainly, we need to move on with this and get these dollars spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from board members at this time? Supervisor Horstman.
Just to underscore, and hopefully this message is going to get out to the public. And I think you have probably one of the more compelling stories to tell on the expenditure limit. 1980, when the expenditure limit formula was in fact passed, things such as a modern county government were not in place. Since that time, of course, and after it passed, we've been able to do our proposition for road tax. And as a result of that, we have monies available, and it sounds like, and this is the good news, we've gotten a lot of good news this time, but this is the good news, is that our sales tax revenue is exceeding what our expectations were. And so we actually have the monies necessary to do the type of roadway infrastructure we need throughout Coconino County. That is fabulous news. The other side of that coin, which is what we really need to make sure we get to the public, is that because of this antiquated formula on expenditure limit, we are capped on how we utilize the funds that we have in our bank account. And that limitation is interfering with our ability to do things such as roadway infrastructure and provide the services and the needed programs for our community. So I think that's, of course, our message. It's a message that I want to make clear of the public that may be listening right now. And it's also really important for us to get that message out to our community. We are doing this because we are utilizing not a new tax, not new taxing authority. It is merely being able to spend the monies that we have to provide the services, and in this case, roadway infrastructure, that we have the money to spend to do that. So I really appreciate that. Very good news. Thank you for being a bright spot today. So
Supervisor Fowler.
Yeah, thank you. You know, the county, when they get into a situation that, then sometimes we call upon the public to assist, to help us help them. And that's the case with this 403. And it was an initiative, and it was overwhelmingly passed, and now they see the benefits of it. And it's just so important to let them know again that at the time we didn't know it was counted towards the expenditure limit. And then recently we learned that it was. So now we have to go back to the public and say, help us again, so that we can spend the money that we have, and we're not raising your taxes, but we need your assistance again to be able to continue the services that we need to provide. So, and then it was a really good initiative with the 403, and being able to have the public say, yes, our roads are important. We want to be able to drive on a road system, because we approached it as a road system. All roads lead to another road. And so that system needs to be safe. And in our county, the systems have many jurisdictions. We're only part of that jurisdiction. We have the Navajo Nation, we have the ADOT, we have our streets, the municipalities, and then we have, and so we really have to all work together. And on our part, it's really good to know that we do have enough funds to be able to do what we need to get done. And your department, your team, you all do a great job in doing maintaining those roads, to be able to do as many people do. Just drive. We're driving every day. We spend I don't know how much of our life driving. It's just that distance that we have. We're not a small county. We're not even people that live in town have to drive. So I think that just maintaining those roads are really important, and you all do it so conscientiously by within the safety realm. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments? In that case, I just want to say thank you for the presentation about these specific road maintenance dollars. So important. I sit on several transportation committees, and we're constantly talking about the deterioration of our rural roads and the lack of funding for those roads. And so to know that we're allocating the resources we need at least to maintain our roads in our county is really important. And so thank you, and look forward to further discussion. Please.
Chair Vasquez, members of the board, thank you. And we just wanted to recognize from the manager's office, thank you, Christopher, for grabbing a hold of this public works budget and the 10-year plan, to you and Jeremy and others, and understanding over the past year the significance of the expenditure limitation, and knowing that we need to get the dollars that were approved by our community to the community. And the road maintenance sales tax is doing exactly as we intended it to do, getting those dollars to the community. And so now we face the expenditure limitation, and we need to have a full effort to ensure that we're educating the public on the impact of the expenditure limitation. And so thank you, Christopher. We appreciate your leadership today.
Thank you.
Does he get the award for the only department that came with us that has more money than they started with last year?
Let's not give him any awards just yet. And,
Can we borrow some money?
is it too good to be true, Steve?
I think,
So
Mr. Chair, we're at the end of the list.
that's what I was gonna ask. Are we at that point?
Yes, sir.
Chair Vasquez, members of the board, and want to note, as soon as Supervisor Horseman said, are there any federal dollars available? Gregory Nelson walks into the room. So, that was a fitting introduction for Greg. We'll keep looking at our opportunities.
Do you know, it was Gregory's birthday and we need to sing happy birthday. You ready? One,
on,
two,
Gregory.
three.
Get over here.
Birthday to you.
Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday, dear Gregory. Happy birthday to you. Speech, speech, speech.
You didn't, right?
Very red. You look like you could blend into the seats behind you.
I felt it, so thank you very much for that endearing birthday wish. It was a privilege to go around the sun another year.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, we've gone through the list. We've got some follow-up items that we're going to be doing for you in the next few days. We've also posted some time on our next agenda to do a little bit more budget wrap-up. I know flood control wants to come. A couple other things we'll wrap up with you. And then we'll proceed with the tentative budget adoption. But again, for purposes of today's agenda and the list that we wanted to go through, we've completed that with you. Certainly the stand down is happening. So you could reverse your time. If you want to go to stand down now and come back for lunch, we can do that too. So it's up to you. We're done.
I think there might actually be a recognition at 11. So if you were to head over now, it might be perfect timing for you. So, yeah.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, everyone. Great work. It's been quite a process, quite a roller coaster, but it's nice to see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and appreciate everybody's contributions.
And thank
Supervisor
you,
Horstman.
Chair. I know that you've spent some extra time and some weekend time to make sure that this runs smoothly for us. So thank you very much for your efforts.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Meeting adjourned.